Stanford University.
Hello, and welcome to E145 Technology Entrepreneurship. In this video, I'll give an overview of the course. Today's agenda is to do some introductions, talk a little bit about what you'll be learning as part of the class, and then to talk about the definition of technology entrepreneurship. I'll talk a bit about the course design and logistics, and then what some other opportunities are for entrepreneurship education at Stanford. So first of all, some introductions to the teaching team, which includes myself, a couple of course assistants, and a number of exciting guest speakers from Silicon Valley who we'll be bringing in. So as for me, my name is Chuck Eesley. I'm a faculty member in Stanford's Department of Management Science and Engineering, and also part of the Stanford Technology Ventures program. Before Stanford, I spent 4 years at MIT doing my PhD there in the Sloan School of Management, studying the success factors and early strategic decisions that play a role for technology-based entrepreneurs, both in the US and in China. Prior to MIT, I did my undergraduate studies at Duke University, where I got my start in entrepreneurship, working on a company called Sundance Genetics with a professor in the biology department. So in addition to studying entrepreneurship, I've also been an entrepreneur. While at MIT, I worked on an educational software firm and also created a life sciences consulting firm called Lobby 10 Consulting. In addition, I worked with 2 venture capital firms, Lux Capital, where I focused on biotech and clean energy and worked with one of their portfolio companies, Genosha Biosciences, and also with Flagship Ventures, where I focused on medical devices investments. I've also mentored many startups in the MIT 100K business plan competition and the Ignite Clean Energy competition. The course assistants for the class are Tim Ott and Henning Prezunka. They're both PhD students in our department and have backgrounds in IT consulting and also co-founding companies of their own. We have an exciting lineup of guest speakers for you, which will both be coming into the class and also recording some videos here for the students watching online. So this includes entrepreneurs, including the co-founder at LinkedIn, Lou Cerne, who founded Wiley Technologies, Corey Reese, who founded Ness, an exciting mobile search app, as well as venture capitalists from Silicon Valley, including Henry Wong of Garage Ventures, Miriam Rivera and Clint Corver, and Randy Comazar from Kleiner Perkins. So now it's your turn. For the students who are watching online, I encourage you to go to the forum and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. Hopefully you might be able to also find other students who are taking the class online in your area and get together to talk about your ventures and even the cases and issues coming up in the class. For the Stanford students, this is the point where we will talk a little bit about where you're from, what year you are at Stanford, what your major is, and so on. So what's different about this course? First of all, since this is a class in the engineering department at Stanford, we'll be taking a science and engineering approach to building high-tech ventures. This will include applying a version of the scientific method to the startup process. We'll also be combining both theory and practice in the class. You'll be working on your own startup ventures, and we'll also be providing a broader framework and way to think about what it is that you're doing in an entrepreneurial venture. The class will be driven by research. Most entrepreneurship classes tend to be a successful entrepreneur coming in and telling stories from their own experience. But we have an opportunity in this class to look at some of the research that actually examines across many, many ventures what are the characteristics of those that tend to be successful versus those that tend to be more likely to fail. So what will you learn as part of this class? You'll learn to articulate a process for taking a new technology and finding a high potential commercial opportunity. You'll create and verify a business plan for gathering resources such as talent and capital, And you'll also create and verify a business model for how the marketing, distribution, all the various pieces that go into a new technology-based venture come together. You'll then be able to generalize this entrepreneurial mindset and this process to something that can be applied in larger companies or other settings, even to create new nonprofit organizations. These are important skills for 21st century technology leaders. And so we're going to be building some of these skills as well as dispelling some common myths and misconceptions about entrepreneurship. So what's our way of teaching and learning technology entrepreneurship? We will be providing some basic terminology and concepts through the readings that we're going to be doing and the lecture discussions. You'll be learning critical thinking through some of the case studies, as well as teamwork through your own startup ventures and the presentations you'll make as a team for the opportunity analysis and opportunity execution projects. And then finally, you'll be doing a bit of career planning through the personal business plan that you'll be writing towards the end of the course. So what is entrepreneurship? What do you think the definition of entrepreneurship is? One definition that I particularly like is that entrepreneurship is a management and leadership style that involves pursuing opportunity without regard to the resources currently controlled. So what does this mean? This means that you see some opportunity either in a technology or in the market, and despite the fact that you don't currently control all of the capital or all of the people that you need to take advantage of this opportunity, you're going to pursue this opportunity nonetheless. And so this comes from Greg Dees, and it's my belief that this process can be learned and can be taught. There's of course a large component that's luck, but for the rest of it, we want to eliminate as many mistakes as possible. What is high technology? This is a class that's focused on high-tech, highly scalable ventures, as different than starting a small business. Many of these things that you'll learn in the class can also be applied to a small business, but our focus is going to be on technology-based ventures. And so the thing that Intel, Google, Amazon.com, Apple, all of these diverse companies have in common is that they're applying some type of science or technology to solve a problem in society. So we'll be taking a close look throughout the course at technology entrepreneurship. This is an important topic because entrepreneurship is known to be a key driver of economic growth, and according to the Kauffman Foundation, startups create in the US approximately 3 million new jobs per year. So it's important for job creation as well. We'll be talking about the different types of technological advancements that startups use. These can either be revolutionary, something that's totally new to the world and creates a whole new category or a whole new industry. Or they can be more evolutionary, more incremental, some faster, better, cheaper way of doing something that we're already doing now. We'll talk a little bit in the next video about how we can see certain patterns. Here you can see various waves of technology that have been commercialized over time. And so we'll be talking about whether we can use some of these patterns to inform us about how to go about creating a technology startup. These are some of the startups created by Stanford alumni. And so one thing I hope you get out of this course is that it was previous students who were very similar to you who were able to go on and form the teams that wound up creating these great companies that we all benefit from now. Just these 12 largest companies out of Stanford have created almost 500,000 new jobs. So let's talk a little bit about the course design and the logistics of how the class will run. Overall, the class is going to be divided up into two main sections. In the first half of the class, we'll be talking about what's the difference between an idea and an opportunity. We'll be talking a lot about this link between finding some new product or service and linking it to a need in the market. And we'll be looking at what types of ideas are worth spending time and energy on to pursue as a startup, and which ones are better as a feature. The second half of the class will be more about pursuing these opportunities. Once you've convinced yourselves and us that this is something that's worth pursuing, we'll talk about how you put together the people and the organization, and also raise the resources and capital that you need to exploit those opportunities. And that will be the second half of E145. So the broad overview of the class is that we'll first talk about the entrepreneurial perspective. We'll then spend some time on opportunity recognition and evaluation. And so here we'll be talking about creativity, going from the idea to an opportunity. We'll talk a lot about business models and the various pieces of the business model. Later on in this section, there'll be an opportunity for you to present or to upload your presentations on your new venture ideas that you're thinking about pursuing. We'll then move into the section that's more about resource assembly and managing growth. And in this section, we'll talk a lot about partnerships, legal issues, venture finance, how to build the team and the organization, and where to look for funding for your venture. We'll talk a little bit also about social entrepreneurship and the way that you can use these startup processes to benefit society and to even create not-for-profit ventures or blends between not-for-profit and for-profit. At the end, we'll do the final OEP presentations, talk a little bit about stock options, and then do a summary of the course. So for the Stanford students who are in the class, you'll work on startup projects, forming teams of 3 or 4 people. Each team will be paired up with 2 mentors related to the industry that you're planning to go into. And you'll provide updates to the class once a week on the progress that you've made in talking to people and beginning to actually build the business. You'll form study groups of 2 teams each. So the study groups will be 6 to 8 students to discuss the cases that we'll be discussing in class. You'll also get to benefit from the online forum discussion from the online students who are taking the class. So for the online students, we want to mirror the class structure as much as possible, given the limitations of distance, but taking advantage of the power of the internet. So for students taking the class online, you're certainly welcome to just watch the video lectures and get as much out of that as you can. But you'll certainly benefit much more from the class if you also go about creating your own startup teams and working on your own startup ventures as part of it. So I encourage you to try and form teams of 3 or 4 as well, and also to network in your own communities to find at least one mentor who knows something about the industry that you're going into to give you feedback as you go through the process. You'll provide updates via the forum and can upload your OAP and OEP presentations of your venture ideas there. And I encourage you to also form study groups and work together through the case discussions and to take advantage of the online forum to ask questions. We'll select one question from the online forum that will then be asked of the guest speakers coming into class. And so that will provide some way to have an interaction with the guest speakers as well. So the grading will be based both on individual participation and also on participation as a team. So what other opportunities for entrepreneurship education are there at Stanford? Overall, our program tries to give students the entrepreneurial skills that they need to tackle real-world problems, whether they relate to the environment and sustainability, digital and physical infrastructure, human health and education, or security and economic stability. Entrepreneurship is important for solving real-world problems. Through these classes, we try and create T-shaped people. So what does this mean? This means that you have some depth of knowledge within a particular discipline, but through classes in entrepreneurship and leadership, you also gain a breadth of knowledge about design, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Each week, we run a series called the DFJ Entrepreneurial Thought Leaders Seminar Series. This brings in serial entrepreneurs and investors from Silicon Valley, and their talks are recorded and presented on the web on the eCorner website. So this is a great resource. I encourage you all to check out ecorner.stanford.edu. For Stanford students, we also have the Mayfield Fellows program, which I encourage you to apply to at the end of January. You can learn more about the program at mfp.stanford.edu. And our culture in the class is going to be very important. We want to maintain a lively and productive discussion. So that includes showing up on time, turning off your cell phones when you're in class, allowing only one person to speak at a time, and try and do everything that you do in the class with energy and with passion. So this is the culture that we want to build. There's a textbook that goes along with the class, which you can purchase either in ebook form or in hardback. This is Technology Ventures by Tom Byers and co-authors. This is excellent background reading for each of the topics that we'll be talking about. And so I give you the option to choose to purchase this if you'd like and to follow along with the readings. So a few frequently asked questions. First of all, must I have a startup idea of my own? In the first couple of class sessions, you'll be going through the process of brainstorming your own venture idea. And so you don't necessarily need to come to class with an idea already formed. If you do, that's great, but it's not necessary. Do I have to be a certain major or an engineer? No. This class is open to everybody. We encourage you to form teams that have a mixture of backgrounds, but it's certainly okay to take the class. Whatever background you might have, you're going to bring some important skill set to the class. The class at Stanford is targeted towards juniors and seniors, but for online students, I've been hoping to get a mix of people of all ages. You don't have to start your venture right now, but we want the class to be a mini startup experience for you, so you can get a taste of what entrepreneurship is like. I encourage you to attend every session, and for the Stanford students, you'll have to make up your mind about the class pretty quickly because the class moves fast once we begin.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So that's just a short clip from an old ad that Apple created that I think really sums up a lot of what I hope to achieve in the class, which is to help those of you who want to change the world in some way, who want to change industries and really make a difference, to empower you with some tools and techniques and hopefully some knowledge that will enable you to be more successful in doing that. And so I encourage you to watch the next video for those who are taking the class online. For the Stanford students, fill out the admissions survey form, check out the coursework website, and watch the second video before coming to the next class. Go ahead and work on forming your teams. I'll give you some time in class, but you want to quickly form your teams so you can go ahead and get started on brainstorming your venture ideas. The Opportunity Assessment Project will be one of your first deadlines. and we'll be talking about that more in detail in future lectures. We'll also be pairing the Stanford students up with mentors. These mentors are venture capitalists or entrepreneurs, and the mentor's role is to help you with your startup projects, to help prepare you for the OAP and OVEP presentations. They're going to offer some real-world entrepreneurial advice and help you begin to start networking with Silicon Valley. So a few important tips for an optimal experience with your mentor. Please arrange your schedule around the schedule of the mentors and not the other way around. These tend to be really busy people, and so you want to make this as easy for them as possible. Please contact your mentor right away, soon after being assigned for the Stanford students, and try and meet a mentor quickly if you're taking the class online, someone who can help you through the course and with your venture. So for the Stanford students, your ticket to your introduction to your mentor is going to be a one-page, maybe two-paragraph summary of the initial opportunity, market, or technology, perhaps a set of customers that you're thinking about addressing in your venture. This will help me to make better matches with mentors who know something about the industry and the type of venture that you want to start. So I encourage you to get started quickly. The quarter is short. That's all for this video, which has been an overview of the course on Technology Entrepreneurship. I encourage you to go ahead and start watching the second video.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.